Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What have I got here behind me? Oh, fabric scraps, tissues. Think somebody's turned. Morning, Gail. Good morning, Barb. Good to see you both. Gail's with Kingsbury Craft. Barb is that just Minnesota custom made, or do you call it MN custom made? So good morning. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about stabilizers. Primarily why, well, the message I want to convey is good morning, Facebook user. The message I want to convey is why you need stabilizers. Some people refer to them as backing. Uh, I like to use the term stabilizer. It was once suggested that stabilizer, using the word state, Minnesota. Okay, Minnesota custom made apparel and accessories. Good morning, Barb. It was once suggested that the word stabilizer actually implies the job of this little sheet that we put behind our fabric when we set it up to embroider. Yes, you could call it backing because it does go on the back for the most part. There are toppers that go across the top, but I like to use the word stabilizer. Now, let me show you why the word stabilizer. How many of you stitch on knits? Yay! Yes. T-shirt knits, polo knits, sweatshirt knits, knits. You can even stitch on grandma's crocheted afghan if you stabilize it. Of course, that one you would need a topper also. But anyways, so how many of us stitch on knits? Here is a hooped piece of fabric, left chest, no stabilizer. All right, no stabilizer. So you've got this on your embroidery machine. The design you're going to stitch is only, I don't know, 10,000 stitches, right? So your needle, I don't have a needle here, so we're going to pretend your needle is going to penetrate the fabric at least 10,000 times. Of course, you got starts and stops and knots and all those extra bits. Let's see if we can show this to you. All right. This is your fabric on the machine. And now I'm stitching. And that's exactly what happens on the machine. Of course, it's a little more smaller stitches. But look at what happens after a while. Your fabric stretches out of place. And I know I said something about, who's stitching on knits. This same thing happens with woven fabrics too. All that needle poking stretches and shifts the fabric. Now, same fabric, ready? With a stabilizer. Can you see that? The stabilizer is actually supporting the fabric and keeping it in its place. There's no stretching, same 10,000 stitches, same random stitching. But unlike this one, you have support, stabilizers. And I know people suggest that if you're stitching a hat, for example, a structured hat, for example, that because of the structure of the hat, you don't need the stabilizer. I want to suggest different for the very same reason. Remember, your cap has a curve, and that curve is going to sit up from the needle plate. And every time the needle penetrates, it's going to push the front of that cap down. With a stabilizer in place, following that same curve, you give some additional support so that the curve maintains and the needle actually goes through. Yes, it'll still push down, but not as seriously as without the stabilizer. And honestly, I feel you get better stitch quality when you use hat backing. Test it. Throw a couple of same design, same type of hat, hoop one up with and hoop one up without, and run a design. I think you will be impressed with the stitch quality of the design file stitched with stabilizer. So I want to talk to you about a specific type of stabilizer, because again, with knits, and I know I'm focusing on knits, but knits are a common commodity in the embroidery world. Like I said, uh, t-shirt knits, polo knits, sweatshirt knits. People, knits. They wash up nice. They don't have to be ironed. There are lots of advantages to wearing knit garments. So let's make knit garments easier to stitch. Now, with a knit garment, the one thing that you want to be careful of with your standard cutaway stabilizer is that sometimes the knit is thin enough that the stabilizer is going to show through the knit. We all know that, which is why no-show poly mesh was developed. No-show poly mesh is just that. It's a polyester fabric, or not fabric, it's a polyester stabilizer that is very thin, very pliable, and provides support. But it's also, like I said, very thin. This is actually a fusible. Can't seem to find it anymore, but I really like the fusibles when I'm doing knits. But it's very, very pliable. And it has a tendency not to show through the fabric. But if you're doing a heavy stitch design that's 12, 15, 18,000 stitches, this thin little no-show stabilizer is not going to support all those stitches. You're going to have puckering. You're going to have poor stitch quality. And it's not going to be the digitizing that's the problem. It's going to be the lack of support. So yes, you can use 2 layers, but then, 2 layers have a tendency to shift on each other, which can also shift your knits. And of course, like I said, this is a fusible, so it has a backing on it. But, 2 layers, they will shift. I found a cutaway stabilizer that is heavier and supportive, but looks like the no-show. gives better support with the no-show, and it doesn't show. So where is the stabilizer? This is the classic cutaway from All Stitch. Let me see if I can find that for you while we're here. Stitch backings. I like All Stitch has got some good supplies. Let's see. And I actually prefer the pre-cuts because it's one less thing. All Stitch. All right. Bring this down. Share my screen. So it's the classic cutaway backing. And if you go up here, excuse me, if you go down here, you can see, oh, it's not going to enlarge it. You can see that it has that same mesh look, but again, it's heavier, but it doesn't show through the knits. So it gives you the adequate support you need for some of those larger logos without showing through the shirt. Are there any questions regarding stabilizers? There we go. This is actually going to be a relatively short broadcast today, but I do have a special guest presenter. Of course, she doesn't know this, and it's not live. Don't get excited. One of the embroidery educators that I followed when I first started my embroidery journey is Deborah Jones. I don't know if anybody here has heard of Deborah Jones or has followed any of her work, but she is a second generation embroiderer. Her father, as I understand the history, her father used to embroider and design and decorate custom apparel for country music singers, country music celebrities. Back in the day, you know, the ones that had all the sparkles and all the fringe and all the beadwork and you know, beautiful, beautiful work. Country singer garment. Here we go. This type of work. Only maybe with more rhinestones and some more glitter and glitz. That's the type of work her father did. That's the type of work she grew up into. And she's quite, you know, she's very knowledgeable. She's very, she has a lot of experience in the business. And she has written a few books, very good books. Again, Deborah Jones. But one of the things that she developed that I personally used and loved using so much so that when I sold one of my first machines, and this was years and years after I had been working in embroidery, I actually gave my compass to the person that bought my machine because she had never worked. the embroidery before, never understood about stabilizers. Um, Deborah Jones developed the embroiderer's compass, and that's what I want. We've got a little 2-minute commercial. Here we go. No sound. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Um, let's see if I can get rid of that. Here, I don't know if this will help. Um, if you're interested, I just posted the link to the YouTube. Um, it's actually it works great. You find the fabric type you're going to use. It actually has two sides, a total of like 25 fabrics, and you dial to the fabric, and it will suggest stabilizer and needle type and some of her personal information based on her uh, lifelong experience with embroidery. Um, what else do we want to cover here with stabilizer? And Jesse, I'm sorry, you came in right in the middle there. So let me say good morning. Good morning, Jesse. Good morning. Oh, so again, any questions about stabilizer? Hat backing. I like this all stitch classic. Like I said, I like to use the pre-cut stuff. Um, you got your why you want to use a stabilizer. Don't pull on your knits when you're hooping. Everybody understands why you don't pull on knit when you're hooping, right? That's because when the knit, you stretched the knit as you're hooping it. So now it's stitched in place, and when it relaxes, it's all going to be bunched up. Barb, you say you're not a fan of the iron-on stabilizers, the fusibles. What is it about the fusibles you don't like? I like using the fusible stabilizers when I'm doing knits because it adheres to the knit and the knit does not shift in the hoop. Of course, when I go to take that stabilizer off, because you want to trim after you're done, it does sometimes leave some residue on the fabric. What else can we talk about with regard to stabilizers? Stabilizers, again, provide support. But do you know that stabilizers can only have like a stitch count for support? For example, people will use a tearaway stabilizer. You know the stuff. Let's see. Where'd my sample book go? I have an old all stitch. Oh, Barb says she's not a fan at how it looks, how the embroidery looks after several washings. I might have to take a look at that. So, I don't know that you can get this anymore. It's a sample book of stabilizers and backings. But just to, we can do that. Facebook user wants to talk about stabilizers for patches. Give me just a moment. So, tearaway stabilizer is designed to do just that. After it's done stitching, you tear it away. Once you're done stitching, no scissors involved, but it's not as strong. It does not support a lot of stitches. The average tearaway can only support about 8,000 stitches per square inch. Gosh, that sounds like a lot. No, per four inch for a 4-inch square, 8,000 stitches. That's not a lot. And I know people say if you wear it, don't tear it. Well, you need to work on that with your own experience. Some very lightweight pieces. Woody, good morning. All right. Well, at least now we know who Facebook user is. People, will use a tearaway on a garment piece, but make sure that it's a very light stitch, very open, not heavy densities, not fully filled. Your tearaway can't support that. Let's jump into patches. I do patches one of two ways. If I'm doing a fully filled patch, the background is all stitches, I will use a cutaway stabilizer that matches the color of the base fabric that I'm using. And I generally use black or white when I'm doing a fully filled stitch. If the design element has a darker look to it and it's going to have a black satin border, I'll use a black fabric with a black cutaway stabilizer. And I use stabilizer that is polyester. And the reason I use a polyester stabilizer is because after I've cut it out, and I've cut it out on the outside of the patch along the edge of the satin border, we're still going to have some stabilizer and fabric residue on the outside. So you take a flame, and that flame actually melts the stabilizer and the fabric back into the satin border. Be careful with that flame, though. You don't want to hold it too long or you will burn, not melt. And we want to melt, not burn. Um, the other type of patch that I do, and I use this technique when I'm doing a exposed fabric background. And this is gonna sound, it's a two-step process. My first process, good morning, Cindy. Cindy's at um, Impressions Expo Fort Worth this weekend. Say hello to everybody for us. Say hello to Eric and Aaron and Terry. Say hello to everybody. Oh, and Mandy too. Gosh, I'm her biggest fan, and I forgot she was there. Um, so I stitch all of the inside elements, the design elements, uh, on the. Woody says he melted hat mesh early on. Lesson learned. Yeah, you don't hold the flame in one place for any length of time. So I'll stitch the whole design element, not the satin piece, and then I'll cut them out. I incorporate a cut line with my work, so you know where to cut, and then I use a film. Hold on, I'm gonna go find it for you. I use a Madeira product called Easy Badge Film. Where are we? Here we are. Called Easy Badge Film. And it's thicker. I know they're telling us it's 1 mic or 100 microns, which is awesome, but just so you know, it's thicker. And I hoop that, and just like in any other applique process, I lay a placement stitch. I then place my patch cutout on top of that placement stitch, and then I use a tack down stitch so it holds it in place. And then I'll use my border stitch, whatever I'm using for a border stitch. And the really nice thing about this product is once I'm done stitching the patch, it just tears out of the hoop. Yeah, I'll take, it leaves little bits. Oh, Lisa Shaw, good morning. Good morning. Um, Say hello to everybody. Good to see you. Enjoy your class. Have lots of fun. You're such an awesome educator. Oh, Lisa Shaw. So nice to see her. But I use it will leave little bits, just like any perforation, it's going to leave little bits. So again, just take that heat flame and touch it up a little bit and it'll sink it right in. And this is actually a heat sensitive film. So if you want to get rid of the excess on the backside, just hit it with an iron. Of course, you'll want to put a covering over it so that it doesn't melt onto your iron. But yeah, it just melts right off. It's awesome stuff. So that's how Woody, did you have any questions about the patch making, about the support for patches, backing and embroidery support for patches? Let me get back here. All right. Okay. So give you just a moment here. Any final questions? I know today was just kind of a rambling stabilizer. conversation. I've got, oh, you're very welcome, Woody. Um, just so you know what's coming up, I am prepping to teach a class for the virtual applique getaway. If you haven't signed up for that yet, it is available. Sign up is available now. The really nice thing about this is your fee not only supports Applique Getaway in putting together its uh, larger event, um, but it allows you to learn at your own pace. All of the classes are available to you for the one fee, and I believe it's a $25 fee. So, great value. You get all of the classes. There's a goodie bag, a virtual goodie bag. There's prizes and giveaways, just like at the big show. Um, but again, virtual getaway, copy, paste. And the class I'm teaching is how to hoop those hard to hoop items, hats, belts, socks. Um, and when I say hats, I'm talking like, beanie hats. Uh, but my focus is hooping for your flatbed hoops. Those are a little harder to hoop for because you have no way to get the under part of the garment underneath the machine. So we're going to learn how to hoop some hard to hoop stuff. All right. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to come over here and, oh, where'd it go? There it is. And say goodbye. Wasn't that fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.